I spoke earlier to Hank Cohen. He's a former U.S. Assistant Secretary of State for African Affairs. I first asked him about China's base in Djibouti.
Well, I think it's essentially for the protection of Chinese maritime commerce. You know, not far from Djibouti, there's been a lot of pirate activity from Somalia. And about 10% of world shipping goes right through there to the Suez Canal. And a lot of that is Chinese. So when the pirate activity started, the Chinese were sending naval ships from China to patrol that area. Well, that's hard. The ships have to stay out for months at a time. It's expensive. So it's very practical to put a base right there in Djibouti, and the ships can stay overnight or 3 or 4 days at sea and come right back. So I see it essentially as protection of commercial interests.
How about the continent itself, Africa? Why would that be of interest militarily, do you think, to the Chinese?
I don't think the Chinese have any military interests. They're interested in stability. They want to do trade with China, which they're doing a lot with Africa. They're doing a lot of it now. They have a lot of Chinese people living in Africa, making money, doing retail, doing development assistance. So they see it as part of their worldwide economic activity. There's no strategic interest there for them.
So the difference between perhaps China's military intentions and other countries, how would you break it down? Because it's interesting how you put it in perspective.
Well, I think China's main, on the military side, I would say China's main interest is Southeast Asia. That's where their interest lies. That's where their borders are. That's where so many Chinese live. For example, in Indonesia, you got millions of Chinese. The rest of the world, I see it mainly as their economic interests. Africa, they have many investments in mining and oil development, in infrastructure. So for them, Africa is strictly an economic issue.
Do you see more of an interest in also being involved in UN peacekeeping efforts? I know we've talked in the past about Mali, how they're there. I know that they were also instrumental in getting people out of Yemen during the crisis there. Is that an area where you see China maybe perhaps moving more in, or perhaps not?
That's an unknown aspect of China's activities in the world, participating in UN peacekeeping. That's very important because not every country volunteers for that, and it's a very important activity. You don't have Americans in there. You don't have Russians. So the Chinese are volunteering, and they're doing some excellent work, I think.
So give me your sense of China's military in terms of its future. Where do you see it going?
Well, China, I think, wants to be the most important power in Asia, at least between India and Japan. They really want to be in control, and you could see that in their claims of the South China Sea, for example. They say, this is our sea, and you have to get permission to go there. So I think it's pretty much confined to that. They don't have any feeling that they want hegemony, say, in Latin America or Africa. It's essentially Southeast Asia is their territory, and they want to be the top dog, and they're going to be, I think.
Hank Cohen, thanks so much for your time.
You're welcome.